"You're fired, Jordan." The words dropped like a hammer. Rick didn't lower his voice, not even a little. His smug tone carried across the open office floor, loud enough to cut through the hum of keyboards and side conversations. "Pack your things. You're done here," Rick continued, waving a folded letter like a prize. "Maybe next time, try showing a little respect for company culture." Jordan didn't move. He stood rooted to the spot, his heart pounding against his. "Ribs. Wait, what?" he managed. His voice was low, nearly drowned out by the silence that suddenly followed Rick's declaration. Rick stepped closer, still wearing that superior smirk. "Don't act surprised. This isn't a good fit. You've made that clear. Time to move on." Across the office, no one said a word. A few heads turned. Others stayed locked to their screens, pretending they hadn't heard. But they had. Everyone had. Jordan's lips parted, but nothing came. He saw the paper in Rick's hand, but couldn't focus on the words. He had known things were getting worse, but this? "You're serious?" he asked finally. Rick's smile grew colder. "Dead serious." Jordan glanced around. A few people peeked over their cubicles before quickly looking away. Some whispered to each other behind monitors. One woman near the printer had pulled out her phone. He saw the screen light up. She was recording Dot, of course. She was. The worst part wasn't the phone. It was the silence. The kind of silence that confirms you're alone. He wasn't expecting a round of applause, or a brave soul to stand beside him. But a single word in his defense would have changed something. Instead, he got this. Lowered eyes, stiff backs, people. Pretending they hadn't heard Rick say "you're done here," like it was a punchline. Every glance that avoided him felt like a door, quietly shutting. Rick stepped back and gestured dramatically toward the hallway. "This isn't your playground, Jordan. You're not entitled to stay just because you think you're owed something." Jordan flinched. Rick clapped his hands once, sharply. Security. That did it? 2 uniformed guards appeared almost instantly. Had they been standing by? Jordan's stomach dropped. The sight of them walking toward him sent a clear message. You're not just being let go. You're being removed. Rick folded his arms. You've been a disruption. You make people uncomfortable. That's enough of a reason. Jordan stared. At him. I've never raised my voice, never missed a deadline. What exactly? Rick cut him off. This conversation is over. You've already taken up too much space here. Behind them, someone coughed. The kind of cough meant to cover. Guilt. Jordan's fists clenched at his sides. Not in anger. In disbelief. This wasn't just a termination, it was character. Assassination. Jordan slowly reached up to his chest. His employee ID was clipped neatly to his shirt, right above the sticky note he always kept inside his desk drawer. The one that read, "Make it count." His mom's words. His hands shook as he unpinned the badge. He wasn't sure if it was from rage or humiliation. He handed it to the nearest guard without a word. The badge was the last thing he had that proved he belonged there. And now, even that is gone. No one moved. No one spoke. The quiet was heavier. Then the insult. As the guards flanked him, Jordan turned his head, his voice calm but quivering. I didn't do anything wrong. Rick tilted his head mockingly. That's what they all say. But when people feel uneasy around you, well, that's on you, Jordan blinked. Because I asked about the promotion? After leading the project, everyone else got bonuses for? Rick chuckled. Always the victim. It wasn't just dismissal. It was gaslighting, laced with the kind of smug superiority that dared anyone to challenge it. Jordan didn't answer. He didn't need to. The elevator dinged. As the doors slid open, Jordan stepped inside with both guards. Someone near the break room whispered under their breath, just loud enough. Did you hear Jamie Foxx is his cousin? The words floated through the silence like a spark. Jordan turned his head slightly, not in anger, not in surprise, because it was true. He hadn't wanted to use that connection. He had built everything on his own, but now everything had changed. As the doors closed behind him, the whispers multiplied, low, confused, and anxious. And Jordan, he didn't say a word. He didn't have to. "Congratulations, we're excited to have you on board," the recruiter had said, all polished smiles and promises of a diverse, forward-thinking culture. Jordan wanted to believe it. He packed his entire life into a pair of suitcases and left Atlanta behind. The drive to Silicon Valley was filled with playlists, hope, and the kind of nervous energy that came from stepping into something bigger than himself. Altec Solutions was his dream job, big-name clients, cutting-edge software, and a mission statement that practically glowed with phrases like inclusion, innovation, and equity. The first week felt like progress. Polite small talk, Slack channels full of emojis, free kombucha in the fridge. But by the second month, that energy started to shift, quietly, like something just beneath the surface was waiting to be acknowledged, but never would be. Jordan wasn't new to feeling underestimated. He was raised by a woman who turned single motherhood into something sacred. His mother worked double shifts and still made time to teach him what it meant to move with intention. By 12, he was coding his own video games. By 16, he was winning statewide hackathons with teams twice his age. Just because they expect less doesn't mean you give less, his mother once told him. You give more. You give everything. That mindset followed him everywhere through. Scholarships, internships, even through the times he walked into rooms where no one looked like him. He didn't want special treatment. He just wanted fair ground. Every team meeting told the same story. 10 engineers, one Jordan. Ideas flowed freely, unless they came from him. Suggestions he offered were brushed past until repeated by someone else. Then they became brilliant contributions. He noticed the glances when he wore his natural curls, the chuckles behind his back. Once, someone asked if he played basketball or rapped on the side. Another time, a senior developer clapped him on the back after a successful sprint and said, "You clean up nice, bro." It wasn't overt. That was the point. It was in the tone, the timing, the way no one ever sat next to him during lunch. It was exhausting. Not loud enough to report, but constant enough to erode. Still, Jordan smiled through it. Because that's what survivors do. The first time his code was pushed live, without his name on the commit, he said nothing. When someone made a joke about his voice being too firm, he laughed along. He kept showing up every day, early, but the silence was starting to echo. The small things weren't small anymore. And even when he gave solutions no one else could crack, the only thing he got was a nod. No credit, no spotlight. Just another whisper that said, "Be grateful you're even here." And still, he kept building. Because he knew his worth. Even if no one else did. A photo of his mother smiled from the corner of his desk. Next to it, a yellow sticky note with her handwriting. Make it count. Every morning, Jordan read those words before logging in. Not to motivate himself, but to remind himself that his presence was already a form of resistance. "Jordan, hey, smile more," Rick said one afternoon, leaning against the cubicle wall with a casual grin. "You're coming off a little intense. People get nervous around that." Jordan blinked, caught off guard. "Intense? I'm just focused on the project." Rick waved a hand dismissively. "I get it, but this is a team environment. Lighten up, show them you're approachable. Soften the edges." The words hung in the air, laced with something more than just friendly advice. Jordan recognized the familiar undercurrent one he'd faced before, but hoped wouldn't follow him here. He forced a small smile. I'll keep that in mind. But inside, he wondered how often being too intense really meant not fitting. Their idea of who belongs. In the weekly meeting, Jordan raised his hand, ready to share a strategy to optimize the software rollout. He was ignored. Minutes later, a white colleague recapped the same idea, punctuated with nods and enthusiastic. Great points. Jordan's jaw tightened. It wasn't the first time his contributions vanished into the background, only to be resurrected and praised when echoed by others. He could feel the eyes flicker away when he spoke, as if his words were less worthy of attention. The frustration was exhausting. He started to question if brilliance alone was enough to be heard in a room where race silently dictated whose voice carried weight. Rick called Jordan into his office. Hey, I'm trusting you with this new batch of features. You're the only one I know who can get it done right. Jordan nodded, but inside, he felt the weight of unspoken expectations, while others caught breaks or lightened workloads. His desk was piling up. Trust felt less like confidence and more like a convenient excuse to overload him. It wasn't just work. It was a reminder that fairness had its limits. When bias lurked beneath corporate pleasantries, Jordan's phone buzzed with the meeting invite for the investor pitch he'd been preparing for weeks. He opened it, heart sinking. His name wasn't on the attendee list. He'd built the prototype, led the testing, yet the team was presenting without him. Confronted Rick privately. I thought I was part of the pitch. Why wasn't I included? Rick shrugged, eyes cold. This is about a presentation. Investors want a polished image. You're not the right fit for this. Jordan's throat tightened. The betrayal wasn't just professional. It was personal. He realized that no matter how much he proved himself, invisible barriers kept him sidelined. One afternoon, Jordan finally spoke up during a one-on-one. Rick, this feels like discrimination. I'm being excluded. Rick's expression hardened. Don't play the race card, man. We're all professionals here. Stop making this about something it's not. Jordan's voice stayed steady. I'm just asking for fairness. Rick laughed bitterly. Fairness? Life isn't fair. You're disrupting the culture. The words stung like a slap disguised as advice, dismissing Jordan's reality and painting him as the problem. Jordan started keeping a journal, a digital log of every slight, every snide remark, every missed opportunity. It was his only armor in a system that seemed deaf to his complaints. Each entry was a quiet act of resistance, a way to hold on to truth in a place where truth was twisted. The list grew, but so did his resolve. He wasn't going to disappear quietly. Summoning courage, Jordan finally reported Rick's behavior to HR. We've scheduled your meeting in 2 weeks, the coordinator said apologetically. 2 weeks felt like an eternity in a workplace growing colder by the day. Jordan left the office feeling more invisible than ever. Systemic neglect wasn't just an abstract concept. It was his daily reality. The clock was ticking, but change still seemed painfully out of reach. Jordan, step into my office. We need to talk, Rick called out, voice deceptively calm. Jordan's heart sank, but he nodded, masking the unease growing inside him. As he entered, Rick leaned back in his chair, a smug smile barely concealed beneath forced politeness. Have a seat, he said, motioning toward the chair. The tone was condescending, like a teacher about to reprimand a student. Jordan sat down, trying to steady his breathing. He knew this wasn't a routine discussion. There was an edge beneath Rick's words, a cold calculation that sent a chill down his spine. This talk was something else entirely, and Jordan could feel the tension building, thick and suffocating. Rick slid a printed email across the table, vague accusations blurred in corporate doublespeak. These are concerns from your coworkers. Complaints about how your behavior is making people uncomfortable. Jordan's eyes scanned the words, frustrated by the lack of specifics. What exactly are you referring to? Rick shrugged, smirking. It's not about one thing. It's the overall atmosphere you create. We want a harmonious environment, and apparently, you're disrupting that. The words hit like a carefully aimed, dark personal bias, disguised as professional concern. Jordan clenched his fists. So, no real evidence? Just feelings? That's how these things work, Rick said coolly. It's not personal. It's about the team. But Jordan knew better. The language was a weapon, designed to silence him without ever naming the real issue. It was the familiar playbook of systemic racism wrapped in polite office jargon. I'm just asking for fairness, Jordan said calmly, meeting Rick's gaze. I completed the project. I deserved the promotion. Why was I excluded? Rick's eyes narrowed. His voice rose sharply, loud enough for others nearby to hear. You think this is about race? No one owes you anything, Jordan. You're not owed a damn thing here. Jordan's calm cracked slightly, but he held firm. This isn't about entitlement. It's about respect and recognition. Rick laughed bitterly, pacing the room. Respect? You're making people nervous. You act like a victim. Maybe if you weren't so aggressive, you'd fit in better. The office door creaked as a few employees glanced toward the raised voices. The humiliation was public now, Rick, weaponizing power to break him down in front of the team. Jordan swallowed hard, determined not to let this moment define him, but feeling the sting of systemic injustice sharpen with every word. Rick's voice dropped into a theatrical sneer. Effective immediately. You're fired. A stunned silence fell over the room. You're fired, Jordan, Rick repeated, voice loud and clear. Pack your things and leave. Whispers erupted, phones lifted, and shocked eyes flickered between Jordan and Rick. This isn't a negotiation, Rick added, savoring the power imbalance. You're out because you refuse to play by the rules. Jordan's fists clenched, but he said nothing. The weight of betrayal pressed down, heavier than any workload or microaggression before. A coworker murmured, I can't believe he did that. Others averted their gaze, caught between fear and sympathy. Rick grinned, satisfied with the spectacle he created, as Jordan gathered his belongings, the office watching like silent jury members in a trial rigged against him. Some employees whispered, quietly exchanging worried glances. Others pretended not to notice, their eyes fixed on computer screens or away from the confrontation. One person discreetly pulled out a phone, pressing record with a subtle tap. The device captured every word, every expression proof of what had just transpired. The digital age had made silent witnesses out of us all, but courage to speak up still felt rare. Jordan walked slowly toward the exit, shoulders squared despite. The pounding in his chest. The room was heavy with unspoken truths, the fear of retaliation, the guilt of silence, and the weight of complicity. Who would be the first to break the quiet? And would justice ever find its voice here? Jordan's hands trembled as he unclipped his ID badge, fingers shaky but determined. He glanced down at the plastic tag, once a symbol of opportunity, now a reminder of betrayal. The cold air of the hallway hit him as security approached, but his spirit remained unbroken. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out his phone. This moment wasn't an end. It was a spark. He was still here, still fighting. As the elevator doors slid shut, Jordan's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then he typed a single word, Jamie. He pressed send without hesitation. Jamie Foxx's cousin, a powerful ally with the resources and voice to challenge the injustice. The message was brief, but the meaning was clear. The tide was about to turn. Jordan leaned back, the weight on his shoulders shifting ever so slightly. This was only the beginning. The rumble of a black SUV rolling into Altec's parking lot instantly caught everyone's attention. The usual buzz of conversations, the clicking of keyboards, and distant laughter faded into an uneasy silence. Jamie Foxx stepped out confidently, dressed sharply in black, flanked by Jordan and a team of determined lawyers. There were no cameras, no flashing lights, only a quiet, commanding presence that filled the space. Whispers spread like wildfire. Is that Jamie Foxx? The same office that had dismissed Jordan with cold cruelty now watched in stunned silence. Power dynamics shifted palpably. It was a moment of reckoning, unspoken but deeply felt. This was not just a visit. It was the beginning of a fight that Altec could no longer ignore. Jamie didn't waste a second. Facing the CEO directly, his tone was calm but firm. "I'm not here as an actor," he said. "I'm here as family and as someone who's witnessed this cycle far too many times." His words cut through the tension like a blade, carrying the weight of experience and empathy. Jordan isn't just a talented professional. He's a young man who deserved better, who was denied not because of his work, but because of who he is. The room, filled with executives and legal advisors, was silent. Jamie's presence was more than symbolic. It was a promise that Jordan's voice would no longer be ignored or silenced. The legal team laid out a meticulous timeline of events. Each document, message, and video clip a damning piece of evidence. Screenshots of racist jokes circulated in private channels. Video clips captured Rick's dismissive remarks, and internal emails revealed plans to sabotage Jordan's career. "This isn't conjecture," one lawyer stated, sliding an email across the polished table. "It's a clear pattern of discrimination and harassment." Board members leaned in, eyes wide, absorbing the undeniable proof of systemic bias hidden beneath corporate polish. A silent weight of truth filled the room, exposing the rot that had been ignored for far too long. Rick's behavior was no longer a rumor or a vague complaint. It was undeniable. The company faced not just internal turmoil, but potential federal scrutiny. The shift was real, and it was unstoppable. Back in the offices of Human Resources and Public Relations, panic spread rapidly. The news of Jamie Foxx's involvement and the mounting evidence forced HR to scramble for damage control. "We need a statement fast," a PR manager hissed into the phone, voice tense. "We're drafting a response," HR whispered, eyes flicking nervously between emails and calls. The board was already questioning long-standing policies, demanding urgent reforms. No longer could Altec ignore the systemic issues that had been swept under the rug. A corporate facade was cracking, and the weight of accountability was settling heavily. Jamie's voice rang out clearly in the boardroom. "You fired a brilliant young man because he made you uncomfortable, not because he was wrong. Not because of any legitimate business reason." He paused, letting the gravity sink in. "This isn't just about Jordan. It's about the countless others who have been silenced, marginalized, and dismissed. You protect a culture that punishes those who refuse to stay silent in the face of injustice." Jamie's words were more than accusations. They were a call to conscience. This is a moment for reckoning. Change isn't optional. It's necessary. Your company's future depends on whether you choose to confront these truths or bury them deeper. The boardroom was quiet. The moral weight of Jamie's speech pierced through the corporate jargon, demanding not just action, but reflection. Jordan sat quietly beside Jamie, his gaze steady but silent. He didn't need to speak. The truth was loud enough. Each word echoed the pain and resilience that had carried him through months of isolation and discrimination. His calm presence contrasted with the chaos swirling around him, a testament to strength born from hardship. This was his moment to reclaim dignity, letting evidence and integrity speak where voices had once been stifled. Within hours, the company issued a public statement. Rick was suspended pending investigation, but Jamie's closing words made one thing clear. This was just the beginning. "We've taken the first step. but the journey toward justice and equality is far from over. The board nodded, the room heavy with unspoken truths and a cautious hope that the battle for real change was only just getting started. "Have you seen this video yet?" "It's everywhere," someone whispered in the break room. The footage, titled "Black Employee Fired for Speaking Up. Jamie Foxx Brings the Receipts," had exploded across social media, reaching over 10 million views in just 2 days. The hashtag Justice for Jordan trended nationally, sparking a wave of outrage and solidarity. Voices from every corner of the internet demanded accountability, exposing the raw truth behind Jordan's firing. People shared their own stories of workplace discrimination, connecting Jordan's experience to a broader fight against systemic racism. The digital world was no longer a passive observer. It had become a powerful platform for justice. Alltech's silence was deafening under the pressure, as public scrutiny threatened to shake the foundations of the company. One by one, former and current employees stepped forward. "We've been through this too," said a woman in a viral tweet. Rick's behavior wasn't a one-off. It's a pattern. Others echoed the sentiment, whispers turning into a chorus of testimony. Stories of microaggressions, stolen ideas, and subtle sabotage flooded public forums and private messages. Each confession chipped away at the company's polished image, revealing a toxic culture that had allowed such injustice to fester unchecked. Jordan wasn't alone. His struggle reflected the lived reality of many who had been silenced. The collective courage of these voices strengthened the call for meaningful reform. Under mounting pressure, Alltech's leadership made a decisive move. Rick was fired. No fanfare, no public defense, just swift action to contain the growing storm. An internal audit launched immediately, promising to uncover the extent of systemic bias within the company. PR teams rushed to craft damage control messages. But the public wasn't easily appeased. The fall of Rick marked a pivotal moment, a rare but necessary reckoning with accountability. Yet, many wondered if this was just the beginning of deeper change, or merely a symbolic gesture to save face. CEO reached out to Jordan with an offer, a quiet settlement, and a public apology. But Jordan refused. "This isn't about money," he told Jamie quietly. "It's about respect, fairness, and real change." He chose to reclaim his narrative on his own terms, rejecting compensation in favor of a fight that extended beyond himself. His dignity remained intact, and his focus sharpened on the bigger picture, a movement toward justice that no apology could substitute. Jamie and Jordan announced the launch of a new nonprofit dedicated to eradicating racism in the tech industry. "This is just the start," Jamie said during the press conference. "We're not here to complain, we're here to build." Their initiative promised bold reforms, mentorship programs, and platforms to amplify marginalized voices. Jordan, once silenced, now stood as a beacon of empowerment, turning personal pain into collective progress. Together, they vowed to create a future where talent, not race, defined success. Jordan walked through the familiar hallways of the office where he had once been publicly humiliated. But this time, everything was different. The space had transformed into a black-led tech incubator, an innovation hub designed to nurture diverse entrepreneurs and challenge the status quo. As CEO of this new venture, Jordan carried not only his past, but a powerful vision for the future. The journey from victim to leader was complete, not just for him, but for everyone who believed change was possible. This was more than poetic justice. It was a new beginning, one forged in resilience, courage, and unwavering hope. Imagine yourself in Jordan's shoes, facing sudden injustice, humiliation, and betrayal at work. What would you have done? Would you stay silent or fight back? Think about that moment. Your choice could change everything. Have you ever witnessed racism in your workplace? Did you speak up or stay quiet? Share your experience below. Your voice matters, and together We can break the silence and build solidarity. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Every view helps amplify real stories that expose workplace racism and inspire change. Join us in breaking the cycle. Your support makes a difference.